Hey guys, what's up? This is Teddy Macedo, aka bearRimshot's speaking. Sorry I am 2 months late with this vlog. In case if you're all wondering what took me so long, well, first things first, I had to do my update vlog for the summer at some point. The only reason why I was released on July instead of June is because, to keep this long story short, let's just say I had personal matters to take care of. Not only that, but also over the last 2 weekends, over the past 2 weekends from as I'm currently recording this, I had not one but two vacations to go to. The first one being one in Massachusetts, which I would go to for this annual family manor. And trust me when I say this, that if you really love eating a lot of seafood, all I can say that this is the perfect place for you to go to. And the second one I went to would be to Virginia for Super Smash Con, which I will honestly say that if you guys are really curious on what happened to me while the Super Smash Con this year, that is another story for another video for another day. But yeah. Now here I am, I'm free to have enough free time for me to share what are my thoughts on E3 2019. Okay then. Now the first thing I'd love to talk about would be in regards to Nintendo. Yeah, if I can be very honest with what I think about what happened to Nintendo E3 this year. Now, with the case of, say, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate of all things, I will honestly say that when addressing the DLC fighter choices Nintendo has made, well, being the hero and Banjo-Kazooie, let me say this. With the case of, say, Banjo-Kazooie, I would, however, love to be able to say that out of all the DLC fighters we currently got so far as I'm currently recording this, Banjo-Kazooie would have been my most wanted out of literally all the DLC fighters. At least hear me out why, please. When it comes to Banjo-Kazooie, well, yes, it may be true that they're currently owned by Microsoft. At the same time, however, it is obvious to point out that Banjo-Kazooie have been and will always be remembered more as major Nintendo icons. Hell, it is no surprise to see that Banjo-Kazooie would at some point make it somewhere on Source Gaming's top 10 most likely third-party characters countdown, you know? I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna lie when I say this, that I would most certainly be one of those people who always wanted to see Banjo-Kazooie Smash as well. And I'm happy that it happened, you know? You know what else is so good about Banjo-Kazooie Smash? With Banjo-Kazooie now in Smash, which means that we can all now expect to see Banjo-Kazooie get his own amiibo figure, you know? Which would be really cool since, well, like I pointed out before, Banjo-Kazooie will always be remembered more as major Nintendo icons, more so than they are as Microsoft characters. Not just by me, but also a lot of people who grew up loving to play Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64. Even though I have typically played Banjo-Kazooie through emulation, when I've played it in general, I really enjoyed it the way it is, you know? Banjo-Kazooie is definitely a major Nintendo 64 classic, right up there with Super Mario 64 and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and yes, even the original Super Smash Bros. Of all things, too. As well as Star Fox 64, as well as Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. And then there was this other character confirmed as a DLC fighter for Smash being the hero. When it comes to the hero of all people, I would honestly like to say this. Although I am currently aware that the Dragon Quest series clearly does carry game history as a whole, at the same time, I find the hero to be unexpected for an obvious reason. Why that is, well, when it comes to Square Enix owned properties go, as much as I can strongly acknowledge that Dragon Quest carries game history, there are not one, not two, but three characters from Square Enix. Three other characters from Square Enix who could have been in Smash for their own merit. Who can they possibly be? Now, the first, or should I say the more obvious one for me personally, would be Sora. Now, I'm not just saying it just because I love Disney, but also there are other factors that go with it, you know. Now, when addressing something like Kingdom Hearts of all things, when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, or the idea of Kingdom Hearts representation in Smash, Nintendo would typically have to go through not just Square Enix, which they're already good terms with at this point, but also at the same time, they would have to go through Disney, which from my understanding on how Disney would view the idea of any of their IPs being used in Smash, I highly doubt I highly doubt Disney would ever say no to any of their properties being used in a Nintendo game, even if it is something like, say, Super Smash Brothers of all things. Especially since considering the fact, well, something you can't deny that makes it that Sora can be in Smash would include the fact that, well, of how Disney is not going to say no to Sora in Smash, would include the fact that, well, it is obvious to know that Disney clearly carries such a long history working with Nintendo in general, you know? And I'm sure if the folks at Nintendo really, really wanted to include either Sora or any Disney-owned IPs in Smash in general, Disney-owned characters in Smash in general that matters, even if it's Mickey Mouse, or Scrooge McDuck, or Captain Hook, or Spider-Man, or the Wolverine, or any Marvel characters that matters, or Darth Vader, or Yoda, or Starkiller, or Darth Maul, or Boba Fett, or Jango Fett, or just any Star Wars characters that matters, as well as any Fox-owned characters, I'm pretty sure Disney would have most likely approved to see any of their IPs being used in Smash, you know? And if that wasn't enough, well, it is obvious that Nintendo has already made not one, but two Mickey Mouse games released on the Game & Watch, and we have seen many Disney games coming onto Nintendo platforms, including the entire Epic Mickey series being released on at least one Nintendo platform, with the original Epic Mickey exclusively released on the Wii, and Epic Mickey to the Power of 2 released on the Wii and Wii U, and Epic Mickey Power Evolution exclusively released on the Nintendo 3DS. And we've seen lots of other Disney games on Nintendo platforms as well. And then of course we got to see Bowser appear in the original Wreck-It Ralph. And we got to see Disney make a live-action movie based on Super Mario Brothers. And it's best we don't talk about that, you know. You know why? Because it sucks, you know. And yes, even though it is kind of sad to see that there haven't been any Nintendo characters present in even though it's been a major tragedy for the fact that there haven't been any Nintendo characters used for Ralph Breaks the Internet, not even Bowser, nor Mario, nor Peach, nor Link, nor Falco, nor even Captain Falcon, nor even Waluigi either. At the same time, well, let's all be thankful about the good news is that ever since Ralph Breaks the Internet first came out in theaters without any use of any Nintendo IPs, at the very least, let's all be thankful that Disney is still on good terms with Nintendo even up to this day. And how do I know that, you may ask? Well, ever since Ralph Breaks the Internet has been released in theater, first came out in theaters, well, regardless if Netflix were to come to the Switch or not, it is obvious that we would be getting not just Disney Plus coming to the Switch, but also Hulu, since don't forget Disney owns Hulu. I'm not making that up. Not only that, but also at the same time, we are still getting some Disney games coming to the Switch, including a Disney Simpsons game, as well as a Lego Incredibles game, as well as Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, as well as coming soon, we're finally getting a new Lego Star Wars game. Also, more about that later. But yeah. As for the second character, Square Enix character who would be deserving to be in Smash, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that Geno from Super Mario RPG rightfully deserves to be in Smash, you know. How can someone like Geno, of all people, rightfully be deserved to be in Smash? Well, let's just say, Geno technically originated in a Mario game, you know? And there are a lot of Mario fans of mine who love playing Super Mario RPG, and you know, the only reason why Geno hasn't been used much as in the levels, say, Waluigi is considering how, with the case of Geno, it is obvious to know that Square Enix would have the rights to that character, you know. Since Square Enix would involve in collaborating with Nintendo making such a game, you know. If you're ever wondering how a sequel to Super Mario, how we all never got a sequel to Super Mario RPG, well, you have to understand, during the days of the Nintendo 64, dating all the way back to the days of the Nintendo 64, it is obvious to note that at the time when the Nintendo 64 became such a big deal among gamers, Square Enix was already working with Sony to make games for the original PlayStation, you know? Which, yeah, as you guys can obviously tell, this would also mark the same exact obvious reason why games like Final Fantasy VII could not be ported to, say, the Nintendo 64, you know? And, yeah. Yeah, when it comes to Geno, I think he should be in Smash, I will say. Though I'm also still waiting for Dixie Kong to get to be in Smash, you know? Since out of all the major Nintendo characters that exist, Dixie Kong is one Nintendo character in general, major Nintendo character in general, and still didn't get her own amiibo figure even up to this day, and I find that to be just sad. And before I can move on to the third Square Enix character who I feel deserves to be in Smash, I'd like to point out that if what I'm saying about Sora is not good enough, there is a Reddit post I looked up a while back explaining how Sora can be in Smash. I will be sure to put a link to that down in the description below. But anyways, moving on. As for the third Square Enix character I feel could be in Smash, that would have to be Lara Croft. Especially since considering the fact of how that, when introducing someone like Lara Croft, of all people, you really cannot deny about the fact that, well, that she does carry game history, you know? But, yeah. would, and then, as, anyways, yeah. That's how I feel about Smash in general, you know? I'm still hoping for more characters to come, but moving on. As for what do I think about what Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC would have to offer, let's say all I can say is boo! At least hear me out why, you know? When reflecting Kingdom Hearts 3 on its base side, as the as what it's got on the base game, for what Kingdom Hearts 3 has to offer in the base game, well, while I can gladly give it credit for what I've seen, that the Focus Square Enix did actually successfully improve, while I will give the Focus Square Enix credit, Disney Interactive Square Enix credit, for learning from certain mistakes of all their mistakes that they made from when they were making Kingdom Hearts 2, at least as of use of Disney IPs in general go, and the fact that it would obviously be expected that we not only get a lot of modern Disney films like Tangled, Frozen, and Big Hero 6, but also Pixar franchises such as Toy Story, Monsters Inc., and Ratatouille being represented, as well as some form of sequel representation, such as Pirates of the Caribbean World's End, and the theatrical release of the Pooh movies released under Disney Toon Studios, since Lumpy from Pooh's Have movie is present. There is a downside when it comes to how Kingdom Hearts came to be. And no, I don't think it's the worst game in the Kingdom Hearts series. If you're looking for the worst game in the Kingdom Hearts series, go after Kingdom Hearts 2 for that. Particularly as storytelling goes But anyways, when addressing Kingdom Hearts 3, well, I will honestly say that it is a step up to what Kingdom Hearts 2 has to offer. There are a couple of downsides that can come. No, Kingdom Hearts 3 does not suck, but rather, well, there are a lot of Disney movies, Disney IPs that could have been used for Kingdom Hearts 3, but sadly didn't. Like, for example, there are some other modern Disney movies that could have been represented within the world of Kingdom Hearts, such as Atlantis the Lost Empire, Treasure Planet, and The Princess and the Frog, as well as Pocahontas could have been represented, as well as films like The Jungle Book, for example. Not only that, but also, another thing I feel Kingdom Hearts 3 could have been better doing would be, of course, it would also be great if there can be more sequel representation. Another thing that also bugs me about Kingdom Hearts 3 would be, of course, ever since when Square Enix made Kingdom Hearts 2, even up to this day, while they made the superior prequel, while they made what I consider to be one of the strongest games in the Kingdom Hearts series, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, even up to this day, while they made Kingdom Hearts 3, they sadly did not continue the story of Lilo and Stitch whatsoever. You know when Lilo appears? You know when Stitch meets Lilo and Stitch? Well, yeah. It's really a shame that we still haven't seen any sight of Lilo even up to this day, you know? And some of those things I always expect to see come from Kingdom Hearts 3. Not only did I expect a lot of Pixar properties being used, but also a lot of modern Disney films, as well as Marvel representation and Star Wars representation, since it is obvious to know that Disney owns both Marvel and Star Wars. And of course, at the same time, higher sequel representation, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some Disney movies I feel deserve to be in Kingdom Hearts, but sadly didn't, like and Lancelot's Empire, Treasure Planet, The Jungle Book, and Robin Hood, for example, as well as Pocahontas. However, I just felt that there are a lot of world exploring that could have been done, like with Lilo and Stitch. Of course, that's not the only film that needs world exploration. Of course, you got Fantasia. So far, the only Fantasia segments to ever be incorporated within the world of Kingdom Hearts so far are The Sorcerer's Apprentice and Night on Bald Mountain. Outside of Lilo and Stitch and Fantasia, well, another thing also worth pinpointing about the Kingdom Hearts series is when reflecting on the following Kingdom Hearts games, on the past Kingdom Hearts games, particularly the original Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance, you'll notice that most of the Disney films included in those particular games have already been gotten sequels up to this point. Several Disney films that were previously Kingdom Hearts that already got sequels would include films like, of course, as I mentioned, you got Fantasia, and then of course you got Cinderella, and then you got Peter Pan, you got The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, even though that has been already incorporated, since Lumpy from Pooh's Heffalump movie has been occasionally used has occasionally made reappearances outside of Kingdom Hearts 3, like in My Friends Tigger and Pooh, and the fact that when the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie was released on home video, there would be those Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh shorts that would typically retell the stories of any of the following Winnie the Pooh films. Not just the films made under Walt Disney Animation Studios, such as The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh and the 2011 Winnie the Pooh film, of course, but also including the theatrical release films released under Disney Toon Studios, such as the Tigger movie, Piglet's Big Movie, and Pooh's Heffalump movie. And, yeah. And then, of course, you got The Little Mermaid. Even if the sequel to Little Mermaid did end up being what a lot of Disney fans like myself would like to call it as Disney sequels, or should I say animated sequels, or sequels in general that matters, where the offspring is the main character at its weakest. Surely some of you can point out that Melody is similar to Ariel. However, there is a major difference worth pointing out between Melody and Ariel that would bug not just me, but also just imagine somebody who loved watching Little Mermaid, If you loved Ariel as she is, in terms of the beauty she has to offer, particularly when she's a mermaid, and at one point when she first becomes a human, you would have hated. That's one good reason to hate on Melody, because, something obvious worth pointing out about Melody as a character, as a Little Mermaid character, is the fact, that when Melody appears as a mermaid, she doesn't even have her belly button shown as what Ariel does, I know this can sound nitpicking, but it's true, Anyways, moving on, then another Disney movie that also got a sequel. Another Disney movie representing Kingdom Hearts that also got a sequel included Aladdin. Yes, Return to Jafar sucks. But despite that, if there's anything nice I can say about Return to Jafar of all films, not only do characters like Aladdin and Jasmine show their cleavage as they did in the original, and not like what you can with the live action remake, which I'd rather not talk about, but also, when comparing Return to Jafar to Beauty and the Beast Belle's Magical World, at least story-wise, I bet we can all agree it's nothing more than a movie, regardless of what we all think about Return to Jafar. But that's another story for another time. And then, of course, you got The Lion King. And then, of course, you got The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Even if The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 is critically panned. But I have to be honest here that I actually don't find The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 to be as bad as what most critics and fans of the original Hunchback of Notre Dame say it is, you know? I mean, yeah, it had one bad song, but still. It continued the story where the original left off. Quasimodo had a girlfriend. And to make matters even better, the original voice casts of The Hunchback of Notre Dame returned to reprise their roles in The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. At least the characters returned from the first film anyways. And then, of course, you got Mulan. Even if Mulan 2 sucks, here's what makes Mulan 2 a bad sequel. The only reason why it sucks would all come down to this one returning character in the movie, simply known as Mushu. Not only is he portrayed as the bad guy in this one, but also, to make matters even worse, he's voiced by a white guy. I am not making that up, actually. It's true. I mean, I will admit, when it comes to Mark Mosley as the voice of Mushu, while I would prefer to have someone of a black guy like Eddie Murphy, Dean Edwards, or Will Smith to voice Mushu, with Mark Mosley as the voice of... This is how Mark Mosley himself not just as the voice of Mushu, but also the voice of Donkey as well. It's not the worst voice acting I've ever heard. Nor does he do that awful of a job either. It just happens that I'm just one of those people who can't stand whitewashing in things like Mulan, you know? Of course, it's true that Mark Mosley as Mushu is not the worst voice acting I've ever heard. Far worse things out there, like Dan Castellan as the genie, for example, but yeah. Enough said. Then, of course, you got Tarzan. Even though it did successfully continue through a TV series that did originally air on Disney's One Saturday Morning, then aired on Toon Disney, simply known as The Legend of Tarzan. And yeah. For those who are wondering how come it didn't count in films such as Bambi and Beauty and the Beast, well, here's the thing. With the case of Bambi, as much as I can say that Bambi 2 is one of the best, as much as I can be one of those people who can point out that Bambi 2 is one of the best Disney sequels, the downside is that Bambi 2 is a midquel to Bambi. Meaning in this case, it is obvious to point out when addressing a film like Bambi 2, it takes place set during the events of the original Bambi, filling in the plot holes of what happened ever since Bambi's mom died and before Bambi grew older. Don't get me wrong, Bambi 2 is one of the best Disney sequels, but I'm just saying as a fact, you know, of how Bambi 2 couldn't be represented in Kingdom Hearts. Whereas with the case of Beauty and the Beast, well, there are not one... You know, when addressing the two direct-to-video sequels, should I say midquels being... Sequels being Beauty and the Beast, Enchanted Christmas, and Belle's Magical World, not only are they both considered midquels for their own merits, but also, at the same time, they are both subpar to the original. I mean, Enchanted Christmas is okay. Not as good as the original, but it has its golden moments left and right. But Belle's Magical World sucks. It's so bad that it's obvious it's going to make it not just in almost every single countdown counting down the worst Disney sequels, but also worst animated sequels in general. But yeah. And I'm sure all of you are probably also going to be asking me, what do I think about TT Games making Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga as the next Lego game? Now, I would honestly like to say this. I'm not going to lie when I say this, that I just knew from the get-go that ever since Disney felt like greenlighting and making that Star Wars sequel trilogy, we're talking about episode 7, 8, and 9, I just knew from the get-go that the folks at TT Games at some point did have to, that by the time when Star Wars Episode 9 is released, that Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga has to be made. And taking into the looks of it, from what I've seen so far, it looks promising, From what I've seen in regards to Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, it is so freaking promising that I would like to say that by the time I get to play for myself, not just on my PlayStation 4, but also on my Nintendo Switch, when I got my replacement sponsor, either that or my GPD went to via Steam, I would honestly like to say this, that Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga it's not only going to be my new favorite Star Wars game to play, but also it's going to be what I consider to be the greatest Star Wars video game of all time. Not just as a Lego Star Wars games go, but also Star Wars video games in general, Especially since not only do everyone throughout the whole entire Star Wars universe gets to talk, but also, not only is it great to see everyone throughout the whole entire Star Wars universe talk, but also at the same time, another thing that makes Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, that's going to make it, that Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga is going to be great, is because, well, you get to travel from ground to space and vice versa. Which is something I've always been wanting to do in a Star Wars game, regardless if it's in Battlefront or not, As long as it happens in a Star Wars game, I'm perfectly okay with it, and I'm happy that it happened, I don't care whether or not that game will ever get Amiibo support for the Switch version, but regardless if this game gets Amiibo support or not, I'm still going to play that game no matter what, It's definitely going to be it's still going to be what I gratefully consider to be the greatest Star Wars video game of all time. But, yeah. But that's just me going all Star Wars fanboy on such a game. But yeah, you have no idea how much I'm excited about Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga when going beyond new DLC fighters for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. As for any additional notes worth pointing out, my feelings for E3 2019, well, I would like to say this, that, as much as I'm happy to see that Banjo-Kazooie is going to be in Smash, not only am I disappointed we didn't get neither Sora, nor Geno, nor Lara Croft as any of the next Square Enix reps, but also, another thing that also disappointed me would be that we still haven't gotten that. Now the sad thing worth pointing out about Amiibo is that not only have we not been getting that much new interesting Amiibo outside of Smash Bros, but also I still haven't seen neither the return of Disney Infinity, nor the return of LEGO Dimensions, nor even Funko get into the Toys to Life video game business, Yeah, I'm not gonna lie when I say this. That as sad as it is to see both Disney Infinity and LEGO Dimensions sadly discontinue, there's still hope for Funko to get into the Toys to Life video game business. You wanna know why? Because, well, as how they've handled as a merchandise company in the past, they're able to tackle all different kinds of pop culture. They wouldn't just do stuff that LEGO would typically do, like Star Wars, Marvel, DC, or The Simpsons, or stuff like that, or even stuff like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, but also, they would even consider doing some much more edgier franchises, such as Family Guy, South Park, Rick and Morty, Mortal Kombat, Halo, or God of War, as well as having the capability of tackling early childhood-oriented franchises like Dr. Seuss, the works of Dr. Seuss, for example, Sesame Street, My Little Pony, and Winnie the Pooh, you know. And, the funny thing I come to notice about Funko is they sure love to troll people like Azuchi Guardian when it comes to how they handle as a merchandising business, Because, well, it is obvious that the thing that makes me feel like Funko should get into the toys live gaming business would be considering of how, like I said before, they treat everyone with respect. And what else is great about Funko? It's even one of those non-animated franchises in general that treat animation as an art medium. How can Funko, of all toy companies, do such a thing? Well, let's just say Funko loves to, let's just say Funko, let's just say Funko would go tackle a variety of different animated properties, whether it be from Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, Blue Sky, Illumination, Don Bluth, Studio Ghibli, or whatever, I think if Funko ever gets into those live video game business, they will do a great job, and I'm sure they would learn from every single mistake that has ever been made when Disney got into the toys live video game business with Disney Infinity, and when Lego got into the toys live video game business under TT Games and Warner Brothers with Lego Dimensions. But yeah. And that's pretty much it. I rest my case.